All right. Good morning, everyone. 9:32. I want to call the PCA Workforce Council meeting to order on April 23rd. We have a full agenda today that we're going to get through and some new introductions and new faces that we're going to start with in a minute. So to begin, I want to turn to Denise and thank her for all of her incredible work getting us through the past two intensive negotiated contracts and putting some new benefits in, and managing an FI transition has not been easy. And all throughout, I think I personally have always relied on your good counsel, keeping us true to what self-direction is, keeping the consumer employers front and center, but also finding resolution and creative paths forward. So wanted to turn to you because I think this may be your last formal meeting. I hope you continue to join us in the capacity of a public member. You're always welcome to continue to be involved, but I think you have news for us on someone who's going to be stepping in to carry the torch for DDS moving forward. So Denise.
Thank you, Claudio. Yeah, it's bittersweet that I'm introducing Nick Gerard, who is DDS's Chief Financial Officer, and he will be stepping in on behalf of the department in the PCA Workforce Council role for me. All I can say is this has been an incredible learning experience that I will never forget. Um, I have met some incredibly hardworking, dedicated, and compassionate people. I'm extremely honored and proud to have been a part of all that we accomplished in the last 6 years and being on the council. And I do hope that my presence lingers. And please know that you could reach out at any time if you have questions about our program, or just want to say hi, like Mary Caruso, who holds brunches. I don't think I'll be doing that for the members, but I will gladly come if you invite me. So it's my honor to introduce Nick to you guys, who should be taking over for May 1st, pending the official letter from the commissioner with the appointment. So thank you, guys.
Thanks again, Denise. Nick, do you want to give just a word or two? I know
Sure.
you've been at DDS for a little while and relatively new to the CFO role, so excellent to have the financial background that you have to the Workforce Council. I'll turn it to you
Yeah.
to say a few introductory remarks.
So yes, first and foremost, appreciate Denise's help going forward. I'm definitely going to need her guidance, and those are big shoes to fill. As Claudio mentioned, I've worked for DDS for a while. I'm gonna, I think, a decade as of next month. I've been CFO for almost a year now, and before that, have worked in finance for a good amount of time at DDS. But I also temporarily served as the Medicaid operations director for a while. Worked in that unit and on the service side of our business for many years as well. And so, really excited to brush off those skills and bring some of that financial acumen to this group from the DDS side, but also trying to rekindle some of my passion for the programs and the services and the people that we serve. So I'm really excited to join you and really excited for the work we have before us. So appreciate, well, I don't really know the group, but I'm sure I'll meet you as we go along, and happy to work together and happy to help in any way I can.
Excellent. And I hadn't even known of some of the substantive programmatic background you had with Medicaid, so that's even a bonus add. I'll have to tell Commissioner Sheff we're very grateful for him designating you as fulfilling Denise's role on this council. And I know Bill may be also eyeing the exits, but I hope not for at least a little while. So we keep Bill on tap. I want to introduce a new person from our team, and then I think it may be helpful because there are a lot of new faces to just do a round robin to close out all of the old faithful that have been part of the PCA Workforce Council for a little bit of time now. So Elise Pearson joined the HHS division of OPM recently. We're so grateful to have her. She also comes from DDS and has pretty extensive experience in working with individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. She's going to be reporting to Melissa Morton on my team and works very closely on helping us develop the long-term care planning work, the PCA Council, self-directed programs. Elise, do you want to say a couple words of introduction?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, everyone. I come with over 10 years of direct care experience working with adults with intellectual disabilities in the private sector, 3 years with DDS. I worked at Allied Rehabilitation Centers. It's now community programs. So I'm aware of the fiduciary side of things, but I didn't come from the fiduciary side. But I'm looking forward to working with you all and applying all my skills that I've learned and hearing from you all as well. Thank you.
Excellent. So for the round robin, I'll start. Claudio Gualtieri, I serve as chair of the PCA Workforce Council. I lead the HHS Division of Policy and Planning at the Office of Policy and Management. We've been doing this together for, I think, 2 years in this role, 3 years at OPM, and I'm just really grateful because this is the group that keeps us focused on how important this program is from the consumer perspective and how unique Connecticut is to not only have traditional waiver services, but also ones that provide maximum autonomy for the consumer clients and how they direct their care and how they receive their care. So I'm grateful for a lot of the representation that comes from the consumer side on our council. And with that, I will turn it to Eileen Healy.
Good morning. Welcome, Elise and Nick. I'm Eileen Healy. I'm the Executive Director of Independence Northwest, which is one of the 5 independent living centers, and we serve the Northwest corner.
Excellent. Thanks, Eileen. I'll now turn to Fran Sinish.
Hello, I'm Fran Sinish. I'm on the advisory council, obviously. I'm a mom of a consumer employer, and I'm on the advisory council of Southwest Connecticut Agency on Aging.
Excellent. Thanks, Fran. And Kathy.
Thanks, Claudio. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Flaherty. I'm the Executive Director of Connecticut Legal Rights Project, and we represent people with mental health conditions who are getting services or are eligible to get services from DEMIS, but I'm a governor's appointee to represent consumer employers.
Excellent, Kathy. Thank you. Lucas.
Hi, I'm Lucas Sunwall. I'm a consumer employer.
Thanks, Lucas. Bill Halsey.
Good morning, everyone. Bill Halsey. I'm the Deputy Medicaid Director. I also just want to take a minute to thank Denise for helping me kind of transition into this role. I leaned on her heavily to try to figure out what the heck was this PCA Workforce Council? What is this whole space? So Denise, Heather, and Melissa had to do brain dumps on me weekly for me to even understand the complexity of this project. And it is complex. So Denise, thank you very much. I'm the Deputy Medicaid Director over at DSS. And as Claudio hinted, I will eventually be, transitioning out of this role in terms of the PCA Workforce Council because we have hired a new director overseeing the community options unit within DSS, but we'll make it very smooth. We'll bring Christine Weston into this position, and I will do some. And she's familiar with the space and the council and all of this, so it'll be a nice smooth transition. But so, just wanted to say a big thank you to Denise.
All right, and I think that leaves, and you sort of teed up Melissa Morton for introduction, who I rely on for brain dumps still and doing this work for a number of years, and even before when we were initiating this program as Community First Choice all those years ago, she and I worked with Dawn Lambert at the time on designing this program, and Christine Weston was on the ground floor with us too, so it'll be nice to reunite some of that expertise moving forward. So Melissa, please introduce yourself and say a couple words of welcome to our new members.
Sure. So welcome, Nick. It's good to officially have you at our first meeting. And I think you're all going to find that working with Elise is a great experience. She's kind and smart and always willing to chip in and help. Denise is going to miss you a lot. So I'm sure that will be touching base and still picking your brain on many things. But so glad to have all of our members here who've been with us for so long. Kathy, you really held in, and you're one of the folks that helps keep us grounded and remind us where the council started, and keeping our eye on the consumer and the consumer need. And you've been a great advocate at the legislature and here as a sounding board. So I just want to recognize you as one of the original members who's been sticking it out. So thank you so much. And really, we couldn't do any of this work without you, as was evident during this last round of collective bargaining, which we brought to a successful conclusion because of all of your feedback and time and dedication. I don't seem to ever be able to circle out of this PCA work. No, but I'm very happy to still be involved, and I thank you for your time. And Claudio, I think we wanted to make one more member.
Yep, I have that
Okay.
noted,
Great.
Melissa. Unfortunately, our newest member couldn't join us today, but we do have the pleasure of welcoming Michelle Johnson, who is a consumer employer who will be joining the PCA Workforce Council. She's had extensive experience working on the Connecticut Council on Developmental Disabilities. I think she's just going to be another terrific addition, and we'll put to work all those good orientation materials that the subcommittee has worked on. She'll be one of our first test runs of onboarding a new member, consumer employer member. So with that, I think we could transition to the next agenda item, which is some membership updates. Here, I just want to announce that Peg Shagru-Samansky has resigned, but she's nominated in her stead another parent of a child with IDDD who can fill her vacancy. And I just want to turn now to Elise and Melissa for an update on how the process is for membership recruitment and filling Peg's role.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Elise.
all right, fine, great. Peg gave us a great candidate. She seems very viable, and it seems like it's going to be a great fit. We're waiting for her response and getting us some things in order. She was checking in with her employer, but actually her son's on the spectrum and not IDDD, but he seems like a great individual and just has some great input to put in. She's very embedded in the community. She's a strong advocate for not only her son, but all individuals and the work that PCAs tend to do. So I'm interested in seeing her participation and looking forward to it. It seemed like a great meeting when we met with her, Melissa and I.
Great. And remind us, if you could, which is her appointing authority? So who is the state rep or senator who has that vacancy to fill that we can just be aware of?
I believe it's the speaker.
Okay, speaker's pick. All right, sounds good. Next item we have on our agenda today is a training fund update. Bill, I'm going to turn to you. Hopefully you can give us a little bit of an update of what's been going on since the training fund last met, I think in October. I think there's some really robust work happening at that level. So turn it to you for an update.
Yeah, so just wanted to confirm that, we have a fully executed operational contract with the training fund. What we've been working on lately is the tuition reimbursement. So the tuition reimbursement, and I will say, I feel like a very collaborative working relationship with Tough, and which has been really nice. What we've tried to do is use the courses that we approved last year. If they got repeat courses, they teed those up and said, those are already approved. So should we assume that those are going to be approved this year? And we said, yes, we don't need to repeat those. So that was at least 60% or 70% of the courses that were submitted. So that's been nice to try to get some operational efficiency within the Tough contract. And then there are some that we just needed to kind of review and hear with them. So sometimes we get a course and we don't know what it is just by the name of the course. And so we ask them for more information, and then we kind of evaluate, is that one of the core competencies that we would want to support as part of a PCA? And And then there are some that we don't feel are aligned with any of the core competencies. I'll give you one example. History of jazz, we denied because we just did not think that was a core competency. And there were some others that we just, we didn't get a lot of pushback actually from the union on our no's. But if it's, medically oriented and we think benefits the employer in some capacity, we've tried to be thoughtful about that and authorize those courses. And so that's been, I think, a successful, I would say, discussion, contract, and negotiations with the union so far. So, and then we're due to pay out, I think, or they're due to pay out based on those already approved courses, I think about $35,000 in tuition reimbursement, which is great because
That's great.
again, the theory is that these courses do add value to the member and improve services to the member. So that's kind of the whole purpose behind that. So things are going well. We just created a little bit of contractual flexibility, similar to what we do in some other contracts at DSS. Many of the contracts have multiple line item budgets, and within many of our contracts, we allow the contractor to move, a certain percent or a dollar without amending the contract. So just to provide some flexibility. So within this contract, I think it's $750,000 annually. We allow them to move up to $25,000 without amending the contract. And that just gives them some flexibility. If they're underspending on one line item and overspending on another, gives them some degree of flexibility. So they've appreciated that. And again, that's pretty consistent with how we manage other contracts. So I think it's running along smoothly. A good amount of tuition reimbursement is going to be paid out over the next couple of weeks. So it's going well, I think. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Bill. Melissa, you have a question?
Just one quick question, Bill. Who's paying out the tuition reimbursement? I know we had talked about, I know traditionally the FI had done it. We had talked about seeing if Tough could take over making those payments. I'm just curious who's paying the tuition reimbursement to the PCA.
Tough has those dollars, so they'll be making
They'll
those
be
payments.
doing the direct
Yep.
reimbursements.
Oh, that's
Awesome.
great.
That's great.
Yep.
Good. Bill, one quick follow-up question. I think it's great that the PCA workforce is going to get this additional training and it's going to enrich the workforce in a way that benefits the consumer employers. As we look to sort of stand up the registry under
Yeah.
the new FI,
Yep.
is there any opportunity for them to sort of note if they have any special credentialing or career costs or diplomas or certifications like this or coursework in a field?
Yeah, I think that is like we're negotiating now with GT Independence about what could be on there. And so I know we've talked about like languages and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I think we could probably add any specialty. There are lots of people that have, gone through and got their CNA certification. Some are in nursing school. There's one person in medical school. So
Wow.
so they're gonna get like a fraction of their tuition paid for through this process, but they're in medical school, which is pretty impressive. So, but yeah,
Thank
so I
you.
think we can do that.
Great.
I think we can say any kind of specialty,
Yeah.
besides language, we could put in there. That's a good idea.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Actually, I think Deidre had brought that exact thing up in the meeting with Holly, and Holly had said she'd be willing to explore that. So,
Right. And the idea, just so for everyone's kind of context, the new FI already has kind of a one-directional platform where the employer can post that they want hours or need extra hours, but we're working on allowing the PCA, those that choose, to also post that they're available, and hopefully kind of like have a kind of a LinkedIn match bi-directional process to better match individuals. And so if they could say, I have especially, I'm bilingual and I'm a CNA, and that, and the employer would like somebody bilingual and a CNA, then there's a match. Any other questions?
No, great work. I
Okay.
think that that
Good.
was a pain point initially, and it sounds like it's really on a good footing now, and it's getting good value for the entire program. So thank you, and everyone who was involved in supporting your good work, Bill. Thanks. Next item is our CBA implementation update. Just to briefly set up, I know that the council is aware that we were able to successfully conclude negotiations on a 3-year successor agreement. Earlier in the session, the legislature did take up the companion resolutions, one a Senate resolution and one a House resolution, to ratify, to give legislative approval for our package. They did so. There was huge majorities. It wasn't entirely bipartisan, but I was happy that in both cases, both in the Senate and the House, we were able to get both parties to come together to support it. And it's very important, I think, from a perspective of this program to show that it's about consumer choices, keeping our rebalancing goals intact, and trying to get people meaningful choices of how they want to get care in the setting that's least restrictive and most appropriate to their aspirations and goals. And so it was important to get bipartisan votes, and I think we were able to do that. I know it's always a tough case when you're trying to take one collective bargaining agreement when the entirety of the budget is also in the backdrop, and people are trying to make comparisons of, well, what does this do for this provider or that provider? And it's difficult, but we always have to try to sort of say, this is the issue at hand and the problem that we can solve for, and let's determine on an up or down vote if this is good for the people of Connecticut, and let's move forward with it. So we were happy that that's moving along. So that brings us to the second trigger in our collective bargaining agreement, which is CMS approval. And I'll turn to Bill and Denise to just give a sense of some of the operational things that need to happen through the CMS process and what the next steps are for fully implementing the CBA.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. We're going to get into kind of the Medicaid weeds here for a second. So if you have questions, please feel free to stop me. So as Claudio said, the collective bargaining agreement related to the wages, the PTO modification in accrual, and the longevity are going to require CMS approval. So what we're managing kind of two issues within DSS right now. We are trying to ask CMS if they think we need to amend our waivers, any of our waivers. So 2 of our waivers have respite, ILST, and companion in there. And so the way we phrase the question is, we don't think we need to amend our waivers because we do have language in there about getting, an appropriation from the legislature to account for wage increases. But we need confirmation kind of in writing from CMS that they agree with us, that we do not need to amend our waivers, or no, DSS, you do need to amend your waivers because you're changing the methodology of the payment. That is pending. We've sent them a couple of emails, very detailed. We pulled language out of our waiver, embedded it in the email. That's really significant, and I'll come back to why the waiver answer is really critical to the timing of any implementation. On the CFC side, that's a state plan amendment. And so we are in really good shape with the hourly rate. We feel very confident in the hourly rate and how to do that. When we're getting into some of the per diem and the 24-hour per diem, our rate setting folks make certain assumptions on that rate methodology, that we feel that it would be prudent if we talked with a labor attorney on how we are establishing those rates. So I'll just give you a quick example. So in our current rate methodology, the 24-hour shift rate includes a deduction for food because we think that the employer will provide that food. We want to check to make sure that that's appropriate. And so there are just some nuances and some assumptions about especially the per diem rate that we want to check with an attorney. And so we have a contact over at DOL, and we're planning on sending questions over and setting up a meeting. The thing about the state plan amendment, the CFC, is that we can hold a date. So for example, if we say we want to hold June 1st as a date to implement those rates, or at least as an effective date for those rates, we may not be able to implement the wage increase on June 1st, but we would be able to go back to June 1st once CMS approves it. We would have to get all of our state plan amendments into CMS by June 30th, which we think we can do on the CFC side if we have our rate methodology vetted and kind of approved by the DOL attorney saying, yep, you've thought about that correctly, go ahead. So on state plan amendments, we can hold effective dates retroactively, right? Because CMS may not approve until August, but then we could potentially go back and make those rates effective June 1st. Claudia, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, just for clarification for my own purposes here, my understanding is that we could backdate for the up to the first day of the quarter. So if we were to slip past June 30th, though, we couldn't go to June 1, right? We would then be able to sort of go the third quarter of the year is what we're operating under. Is that right?
Well,
Help me understand the quarterly requirement.
If we get in, we can implement any time within the quarter that we submit the state plan. So if we submit everything by June 30th, we could hold a June 1st date. If that misses, then obviously we would be on to 7/1, and then we'd have till 9/30, which we wouldn't wait that long, 9/30 to submit everything to CMS.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. I appreciate it.
So, but then I just want to pivot back to the waivers and why the waivers are different than our state plan. The waivers, you can't hold dates. It's all prospective, right? So if we're going to do this entire bundle together and CMS says you have to amend your waivers, we are on a much longer trajectory in terms of implementation of these changes because everything is prospective. We can't hold any dates on waivers. And again, so it really comes back to, do we want to continue to bundle this and do everything at the same time, or do we want to start picking these apart and implementing at different times and dates and things like that? I have mixed feelings about that. There are pros and cons to that, but I just wanted to kind of share where we are in terms of that. Like theoretically, we could say we could hold like a June 1st date on the hourly rates, which are the vast majority of PCAs out there, and then, phase the per diem rates. I don't know if that's a great idea, by the way. Or we just keep everything bundled together and do it all at one time. And then again, we're dependent on CMS on this waiver question. So let me just pause there to see. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have some questions. I don't know, Fran, were you trying to ask a question or no? Okay.
No.
So if I'm understanding it right, Bill, the lion's share of the hourly rates that are paid to the PCAs, which means PCAs and companion homemaker services, are under CFC. So that would be a state plan. It's a pretty straightforward. We can change that. It's the wraparound and sort of adjacent classifications of work like ILSTs, per diems that are still embedded in the waivers, and therefore we need to get clarification on whether that triggers a more extensive waiver approval and amendment process that could only be prospective. So is that really the split, sort of dependent on the work classification you are? PCAs that are the traditional PCAs are under the state plan amendment CFC, but then these other more specialized types, either per diem, overnight type things, are in the waivers?
No, the per diems are in CFC. So I'll give you just like a staging kind of example. If we said, let's just get the hourly rates out. Let's get the hourly rates out. That's the vast majority of PCAs out there. Let's get those done. We would have to submit to the Connecticut Law Journal public notice by this Friday to hold a May 1st date. Right? So, and that's through an extension through the Connecticut Law Journal. I think it's actually due tomorrow, but we could say, could we get an extension? We'll submit on Friday. And if it's just hourly, I mean, there is a chance that we could hold a May 1st date for just the hourly under CFC. Then, Claudio, the per diems, those are the ones that we want to check our assumptions with a Department of Labor attorney to make sure we are accounting for those rates. And we have some quite, unrelated to the CBA, we need to ask them some questions about, or her, about overtime. We have some questions about overtime that we really need to clarify with DOL. But that, again, I'm now bringing a whole nother topic in unrelated to the collective bargaining agreement, but the per diems would not, there's no way we would be able to hold a May 1st per diem rate.
So are there who's exclusively on the waiver?
Who's on the waiver?
ILSTs? Yeah, like what?
Companion, respite, and ILST.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That helped.
Bill, can I ask a question? Is there a chance using the current per diem rate that we could just do the 4% increase while DSS is working on figuring out the overtime and the meals and all, while you're trying to clean up some of the things you found in the rate methodology? So as not to hold up the entire wage increase for that?
And just build in the rate increase and
then
do a true up?
if we have to amend it again, we amend it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking out loud, Melissa. The only thing that might do is we couldn't correct anything retroactively, right? So if we say, oh, just put the rate increase in for the per diems, and then for May 1st, let's say, and we're off and running on May 1st. And again, we'd have to get the CMS approval to actually do it, but at least we're holding a date.
Mm-hmm.
If DOL came back and said, no, you know what, your assumptions are wrong on that per diem. You gotta change that, or your assumptions are wrong on overtime. You gotta change the state plan. That would, it would not be effective May 1st. So whatever we'd have to do, and this is why I'm thinking here, because we actually haven't implemented anything on May 1st. We're just holding the date on May 1st. So then can you actually go back and correct the methodology to be effective June 1st? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. You know what I mean? Like, so on the one hand, we'd be saying to the per diems, here's your rate on May 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd say, you know what, after further review, we did that wrong. And on June 1st, your per diem rate is changing again.
Right.
I'm
Wouldn't
not
it
sure
be
that's.
Is there a chance it could go down though? That's my worry.
It could it could go either direction.
That's why, then we give them the 4% on a bigger base, then we get a drop. That would be maybe more problematic for us politically than.
Right.
I understand, because then we're going to be in the position of hold harmless. They're used to this rate. This is the new rate. We have to at least hold them harmless if it ends up working.
But
And
it
then we'd
sounds
have to
like they
we'd
could,
have to back that out and not claim on anything over. I worry about that, about including the per diems.
but it seems like they could have, well, we can talk about this
Yeah.
offline, but because
Yeah.
it seems like they could have a negative impact on their rate anyway, either way. It could go down and then the 4% is being built into a lower rate. So it seems like we could have the problem either way, but we can talk about how best to handle
Yeah.
it maybe outside of this. Thanks, Bill.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one. The results of your conversation about the per diems, could you share those with DDS? Just because
Of course.
I am now worried about our per diems, just not really different parts of our per diems, not really how we're claiming them, just more of structure and maybe like the validity of our structure and our assumptions. So
That's exactly what I'm not worried about the claiming. I'm worrying about just making sure what are our assumptions in there, and are we backing out some things that maybe we shouldn't be backing out.
yeah, like when you talked about meals and stuff, I've never even thought of it. And I don't know if there's anyone left at DDS to think of it. So now it's time to think of it. So yes, I would appreciate whatever you guys find out if you could pass it along.
All right, I think that was a very helpful tutorial in a very complex area of Medicaid space. So thank you for that. Any other questions before we get to our next agenda item? Seeing none, the next item up is our FI transition with GTI Independence. So Denise and or Bill, quick update. I hear generally, I think that I've heard positive feedback from the PCAs. I know obviously nothing is going to go perfectly and there's always going to be hiccups whenever you move 12,000 plus PCAs in a whole payroll system overnight, essentially. But I think one thing that has been a thematic that I've heard is the willingness to problem solve, right? We can't control the things that may happen, but at least there's someone who can respond to you. There's customer service. There's an ability that you're being heard and your problems being taken care of. And from a perspective of just being in the first month, not even a full month of transition, I think that's a good position to be in. But I'll turn to you guys of the good, bad, the ugly, the next steps on that.
Bill,
Denise,
you want
do you
to
wanna
jump in
start?
first? No,
Yeah,
you could do
please.
first, and I could bring up the tail end.
So, I will say that overall, it has been quite a positive transition. That's not to say that a few of us were a little worried about the cutover date happening, and some of the numbers that we were seeing, even a week before the cutover date to GTI, they had a contingency plan. The state agencies were talking about a contingency plan on the contingency plan, and they were like, you guys, we got this. We're going to do it. It's going to be good. And we were like, gosh, I really hope you're right. But overall, it has been quite positive. The vast majority of PCAs are getting paid. The vast majority of employers are enrolled. We're hearing good things about the GT Independence electronic verification payment system. What we're dealing with now, I think, are expected blips that have probably been happening for a long time, but there's been no way to manage it because of just the sheer volume. And like now GTI is raising those to us and say, hey, we have a group of people that are, like, for example, over budget. And what do we want to do with the people that are over budget? How do you want to handle that? And so we have to come up with a plan that people that are over budget. And what do you want to do with the overlapping shifts? And like, so now we're like really getting into the details about cohorts that probably have been less than ideally managed for a number of years. And now we have an opportunity to actually really dig into these cohorts and figure out how do we want to manage them, because we're not dealing with so many non-payments. We're dealing with most people are getting paid. And now we can focus on kind of the anomalies that I think we expected to hear about and now have time to deal with. Denise, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely do, Bill. That was a really good way of kind of describing. And I also think that the collaboration between the two state agencies has been phenomenal during this process. And we're learning a lot about how different we really are, but how similar as well. Just along the lines of the criminal background checks and taking a look at that and what makes sense, in terms of quality and safety and protection for the populations, for both departments. As Bill said about the overlapping, that's something between that has been happening under CFC and DDS funded folks, and that we're now able to kind of step back and take a look at. There's some other operational implementation things that we're noticing as well in terms of our program that didn't exist before because of the GT app. They expect to have all services inputted into this app. So now we have a much easier way of kind of looking comprehensively at somebody's services and supports versus to paper timesheets being sent, maybe missing. There's a much easier way for us to track how the funding is being spent and how people's needs are being met. As Bill said, we are running into some things that we just need to triage, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's that, wow, this has been existing for so long, and now we need to implement some change around that. I'm really looking forward to their Connecticut pod, as they call it, their customer support folks who are trained and skilled on both the DDS, ASD, and DSS Connecticut programs. The folks that they're using are all hands on deck to get everybody enrolled, to get everybody trained, to get, to provide that technical assistance. But I think moving forward, those people are going to really, they're going to provide that kind of background quality that we're missing and we missed with our two former FIs. They kind of learned as they went, right? And I think with these folks, they're going to come on board fully trained rather than, hey, have you heard about this? God, I don't know how to handle this. They're going to have had this training from soup to nuts, which I really appreciate. Wait times, hold times on the phone. There were some issues around that at the beginning. I don't think they were expecting the volume that they received. They probably thought, well, Connecticut, they're a small state. We've done this before. But, so they kind of had to learn our system as well in order to be responsive. But I think both of the state agencies, or all three state agencies, have a pretty good handle on how to triage, more of the urgent issues up to GT to get them resolved on a daily basis. So I think we're in a good position. I think there's a lot more that we're going to realize that one of those light bulbs will pop up and we'll have to deal with. But yeah, it's been very positive. It's just, I think we need to help our folks shift because there are some differences with GT than versus to working with our former FIs. A lot of forms have changed. A lot of things they're used to doing. There's more flexibility with GT, but with change, you have to be willing to also put yourself in that driver's seat and say, okay, I know I've been doing this for 15 years this way, but now I'm going to have to shift. So I think it's really just encouraging, supporting, and communicating clearly to our stakeholders so that they understand kind of where we are.
I also just wanted to confirm to this group that paid time off is fully operational. So
wow, that's a good
Yeah.
job. I mean, for all of the people that were part of the original agreement when we broke through and finally had PTO, to see it come to fruition, that's excellent news.
Yep.
Great.
I think in the first two pay periods, like 3,000 hours of PTO have been used. So that's a very good thing and welcomed by the union. So overall, I would think, yeah, please, Melissa.
Oh, no, I just wanted to add that one of the things I think has stood out for me with GTI is that not only are they fantastic at identifying problems and getting to the root of what's causing the problem, but they are problem solvers. So they are willing to step up, take responsibility for where their role in the problem may be, identify pain points, and help troubleshoot. And I think that's already puts us leaps and bounds ahead of where we were especially toward the end of our last FI's run when they were winding down. So it's been refreshing to work with them.
I agree. And man, have they read the collective bargaining agreement? They know that thing inside and out. And I'll just say, like, their CEO, she's on every single call and she knows, like, she doesn't defer any questions. Like, she takes all the questions. Like, she knows this space.
All
Any
right,
questions
sounds
about
good.
that? Okay.
No, I think it sounds promising. We'll keep an eye on it, but it sounds like all systems a go and moving forward. That's awesome. So then we have some quick rapid fire agenda items here at the end. If anyone wishes to put any new business or other business on the table. All right, seeing no hands raised, public comment. I don't think we have anyone from the public here. Melissa or Elise, can you just confirm no one's in the waiting room or anything or sent written public comment? All right. So then that brings us to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? The time is 10:18.
Aye.
Fran moves. Is it a second? Kathy seconds.
Second.
All those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
You
Thanks,
as well.
everyone.
Bye, you guys.
Great day, everyone.